This happened about a year ago. I went to a Burger King with my friend Emily. It was probably about 8 p.m. and we sat down in a booth to eat. Emily and I were just chatting and joking around, having a good time like always. We had been there for maybe 20 minutes when a man who was a Burger King employee walked over to us. He was sort of average height, had a little bit large build, and had dark hair. Immediately, I was wondering what he wanted. Burger King is not the type of restaurant where you have a waiter. It's not even the kind of restaurant where people usually come over and ask how the food is or anything like that. It's just a fast food place. He said hi, looking at both me and Emily. We said hi to him, and then there was an awkward silence. He started having like a casual conversation with us. I remember he said something like, "How are you guys doing?" or "What are you guys doing?" We were both confused and just told him that we were eating and talking to each other. He kept hanging around though. He was standing right next to the table. That's when Emily asked what the guy wanted. He acted all insulted and was like, "What did I do?" I thought he might be joking, and that's when the guy helped himself to a seat. He scooted in and sat right next to me on the bench of the booth. We sort of laughed it off, but I know I was secretly wanting him to leave, and I thought it was really uncomfortable. I'm sure Emily felt the same way too. Then, he asked us if we could go order him some food. That's when he started getting rude. We asked him to leave, and he just kept sitting there, and we argued with him for a while. It wasn't like a big scene or anything, and we weren't shouting, but we were going back and forth. Finally, he angrily got up and left us at the table. We watched him walk away and out the door. He'd been talking to us for a total of almost 10 minutes. Emily and I were really annoyed by this. We decided to go up and complain to let them know that one of the employees had been harassing us. When we walked up there was a woman behind the counter. I said to her that there was an employee that had been really rude to us. The woman at the register looked annoyed. She said, "Yeah, and he was fired earlier." She went on to say that he had been fired just earlier that night when she had thought that he left. The area we were sitting in was not visible to the front counter. She apologized and gave us a gift card for the trouble. We were also offered free ice cream. We accepted the offer and went back to sit down in the booth. We were there for maybe 10 more minutes, and then we left. After we got outside, we started walking to my car. I had drove from my house, which was really close by. When we were walking to my car, we saw the same employee step out of one of the cars that was parked in the parking lot. He started approaching us. Without giving it a second thought, Emily and I both sprinted for my car. As we did, he started running towards us. We got to my car as quickly as possible and got inside and locked the doors. It was probably the fastest amount of time that we possibly could have done it in. He reached the car just moments later. He tried opening Emily's door on the side. It was locked though. I backed away and left the parking lot. I was afraid that the guy would follow us home, but thankfully he didn't. This was definitely my scariest experience at a Burger King. I'm not sure why the guy was fired from Burger King, but he clearly had some problems. What his intentions were, I don't know, but hopefully Emily and I don't see him again. This story is the strangest thing to ever happen to me. It was last year, and I was about an hour away from my house where I lived, and on my way home. I was hungry, and it was nighttime. I hadn't had dinner yet, and saw a Burger King, so I stopped off for some food. I parked in the parking lot, and went inside. When I got inside, the place seemed sort of quiet, but I did see a few people eating inside, and one person up by the counter. I walked over, and somebody took my order. They told me it would be a little while, so I took a step back and waited. I decided while I was waiting to go use the bathroom, and I walked down the hall. I got inside the bathroom and was in there for maybe a minute total. I took my time washing my hands, but once I left the bathroom and walked back out, I noticed that the light in the hallway was now off. Then I got to the main part of the restaurant and saw that all of those lights were off as well. I walked over to the counter. Everything seemed to be off, and nobody was back there. I guess maybe they closed soon, but I had still placed my order, and nobody else that had been in there before was there. I walked all around the whole restaurant, and every light was off, and nobody else was inside at all. There was no sounds coming from the kitchen area, and I looked back around and couldn't see anybody. I then walked out of the restaurant. My car was the only car in the parking lot now, too. I had no idea what was going on, and I just drove away, feeling creeped out. I still have no way of explaining it, and every time I've told the story to other people, they don't believe me. Some people think the employees were playing a joke on me and turned all the lights off and hid or something like that. Maybe that's true, but I don't know how they would do it all so fast. Either way, it's very strange. I live in a pretty populated city. About a month ago, I was walking home from work one night. Many times, I find myself walking back a little bit later at night, like 10 or 11 p.m. That's about the usual time that I get done with work. I walk right through a park on my way home, and I enjoy it during the day, but when it's nighttime, it always seems a little spooky. One time, I was walking home from work, and I was going down the path in the park, and I got a call on my cell phone. I looked, but it said unknown caller, so I ignored it and kept walking. This is something that I probably would have just forgotten, but the crazy thing is that it happened again the very next night. I was walking home, and it was right around the same time as I was going through the park, and my phone rang again. It was also from an unknown caller. This time, I declined the call and kept walking. The very next night, I found myself walking home at night again, and once more, my phone rang as I was walking through the park. This time, I was curious as to why this kept happening, and I answered it. When I said hello, the first thing that I heard on the other end was the sound of somebody breathing. It was as if they were right up to the phone. They didn't say anything though. I asked who this was. At first, I just kept hearing the breathing on the other end. Then they spoke. It was a man's voice who said, "I can see you." He said it in the creepiest way possible. He continued, "I watch you walk through the park every night." I asked again who this was. Then he said, "Look to your left." I was standing on a path that was going right through the park, and to the left there was a bench. The bench was empty, but behind the bench there were a few really thick bushes. I looked in that direction, and at first saw nothing. Then I saw a man starting to step out of the bushes. I didn't stop to get a good look at him. I just started running. I remember when I began to run, hearing some laughter from the man. He didn't chase me. I ran the quickest way possible out of that park and back onto the sidewalk. Then I hung up the phone, which was still on the call with the guy. I walked as fast as I could the rest of the way back to my apartment and looked over my shoulder literally every 5 seconds. In the days that followed, I took a taxi to and from work. Eventually, I started walking to work again, but I still avoid that park, especially at night. This is something that happened a few years ago. I buy things on eBay here and there, and have been doing so for years. I like to collect things like sports memorabilia, and occasionally I bid on auctions. One time, I saw this autographed football that was signed by one of my favorite players. It had 0 bids, and the starting bid was pretty low. I expected it to go way up, but I entered my maximum bid and then moved on, thinking maybe I had a shot at winning it. The auction still had several days left. Over the next few days, I actually forgot all about it. Then, I got a notification that I had won the auction and I could pay for the signed ball now. When I looked, I couldn't believe it. Not one single other person had bid on the ball, and I had won. I don't remember the exact price. I think it was maybe like $10. It was probably worth a lot more, maybe over $50. I was really excited and paid the money. The very next night though, I was at home when my phone rang. During this time, I had a landline phone that I had for years. I did not recognize the number on the caller ID, so I didn't answer it. What followed shortly after was a message. A man's voice came onto my answering machine, and he said that he was trying to reach me and mentioned my name. He said that I had won his auction for the football, and unfortunately nobody else bid on it. Then he said that I was getting way too good of a deal, and it wasn't fair at all, but he was going to do me a favor and mail it anyways. He went on to say that he expects me to leave him a very good review after this. Now, this rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like how he called me up on my personal phone to say this. I won his auction fair and square. If he didn't want the risk of somebody paying $10 for it, then he shouldn't have started the bidding so low. He knew the risks. I went on eBay and looked at some other listings of the same player's autograph on a football. They were going for a little over $50, so the guy lost out on about $40. It's not that big of a deal. Just 2 days later, I received the football in the mail.
It was fast shipping, because I guess the guy lived in the same state as me. After receiving the football, it was packaged well and just how it looked online. I went on eBay to leave the good review that the seller wanted so badly. To be honest, I really didn't want to leave him a good review after what he did. It kind of annoyed me. But when I logged into eBay, I noticed that he had already left me a negative review. On eBay, sellers and buyers can leave each other reviews. You can leave it positive, negative, or neutral. This affects your feedback, and people are less likely to buy or sell to you if you have a bad rating. Mine had been perfect to that point, and his was pretty good. I think it was like 99% positive. His negative review of me said, "Buyer got way too good of a deal." Clearly, he was upset about it, but I did not feel that it was fair for him to leave me a bad review. What was I supposed to do? I bid and I won. Did he expect me to offer to pay more for no reason? It angered me that he left me a bad review, so I left him a bad review. I said what happened. I said, "I won the auction from this seller for a good deal." He then called my home phone complaining and demanded that I leave him a good review. He sent me a message after this, which I ignored. I didn't even open it. Then, the next day, he called me again. I didn't answer, and he left another message. This one was very angry. He berated me for about 3 minutes straight. I didn't even listen to the whole thing and deleted it, but this didn't stop him. He called me again several times the next day. I got frustrated, and luckily I had call blocker installed on my landline. I blocked his number so that he would finally stop bothering me. For several days, everything was fine. But then, one night, I was at home, and out of nowhere got a knock on my front door. I walked down to the front door, but before opening it, looked outside. It was a man who I did not recognize. I didn't know why he would be here. I answered the door, and the man standing there mentioned my name and asked if that was me. I said yes. He then told me that he sold me a football on eBay not long ago. As soon as I heard that, I slammed the door right in his face. This caused him to start aggressively banging on my door. I yelled at him to go away or I was calling the cops. He was yelling and demanding that I give him the ball back, saying that I scammed him. I couldn't believe this guy. I'm not sure if he was really just mad about the ball at this point, or if he was just mad at me. He kept standing there and knocking on my door every so often. After he didn't leave for over 10 minutes, I called the police on him. When they arrived about 10 minutes after that, the man was still there. They spoke with him, and he gave his side of the story, which I'm not even sure what that was. An officer came inside and spoke to me, and said that the man outside kept claiming that I scammed him and stole his autographed football. I told the officer the whole story, and I showed him eBay proof on my phone. After a while, the police ruled in favor of me. They said that the transaction was fair and I owned the football. They told the man that he had to leave my property and told him not to come back. Eventually, the man agreed and left. After that, I never heard from him again. I still have the football, and every time I look at it, I laugh when I remember the crazy story that goes with it.
My name is Denise, and I used to live in an older apartment close to the city. I lived in it for 1 year total. Over my time living there, I got to know a couple of my neighbors, but not many. I would see some people around the building or in the hallways, but most of them I never had any conversations with or anything. After I'd been living there for almost a year, something odd happened. It was really late at night on a Friday. I was staying up late watching a movie, and I was by myself. All of my lights were off, and I was eating popcorn, when suddenly I heard that somebody was trying to enter my apartment. The front doorknob was rattling, and it startled me. I paused the movie and listened close. The doorknob turned several times. I kind of expected somebody to knock, but they didn't. Whoever was there tried opening the door again. I got up as quietly as I could and tiptoed over to my front door. It wasn't that far away, and when I looked out the peephole, I saw a guy standing right outside. He appeared to be looking closely to my doorknob or lock area, so I couldn't see his face at first. As I leaned my face against the door moved a little bit. When it did, the guy at my door backed up and I saw his face. It was one of my neighbors. I didn't know his name, and we had said hi to each other a couple of times in the hallway, maybe once or twice. I knew that he lived on my floor and across the hall, about 4 doors down. After he backed up, I saw him walk away back towards his place. I was kind of creeped out. Why was he trying to get into my apartment? I stayed up for a while and looked outside of my door a few more times. I never saw him again though. I was finally able to go to sleep at like 3 a.m. The next morning, I woke up at about 9. When I left my bedroom, I thought I heard something at my front door again. I don't know if I was just paranoid now, but I walked over and looked out of it once again. The same guy was there, my neighbor. He then tried opening the door again. When it didn't open, I saw him just turn around and walk away. I did my best to make sense of this, but I had no idea what he was doing. A couple of days went by. I was leaving to go to work and happened to see my neighbor walking in my direction like we were going to cross paths down the hallway. I wanted to turn around and go back to my place, but I decided not to. When we made it within about 10 feet of each other, we made eye contact. That's when he said hi to me and told me how he had gone to my door the other night. He said that he didn't know if he woke me up or not, but he had accidentally tried to enter my apartment, and he apologized. He told me that he had gotten back home from the bars with friends and was a little drunk. I told him it was all right, and I understood, and then we went our separate ways. But I didn't understand. At first, it all made perfect sense to me, and I felt relieved. But after I thought more about it, I realized that he didn't really seem drunk when he was messing around with my door. And the way that he was messing with it, it was like he was trying to break in, not like he thought that he lived there. And even if he was just drunk, why did he come back and try to get in again the next morning? I don't think that he would still be drunk and wander back to my apartment at 9 a.m. I tried to just tell myself that I was making more of it, and he was telling me the truth. A few more days went by. It was late at night again, and this time I was in my bedroom on my phone. The time was probably about 11 o'clock, and there was a knocking at my door. It was kind of quiet, but I heard it. I got up, walked over to the door, and looked outside. The same guy was back. As I was looking out the peephole, he knocked again. When he knocked, I accidentally bumped the door forward again with my head. Like I said, my place was kind of old, and the door would rattle in the hinges really easily if you touched it. When the door moved slightly, the guy quickly ducked around the corner. Everybody's doorway went in a little, so if you hid around the corner right in front of it, you could not be seen. I'm not sure what he was doing, but I didn't like it at all. I kept watching, and after about 30 seconds or so, he moved back into view and knocked again. I kept still and did not move. He knocked once more and then finally left. I don't know what he wanted, but I just had a bad feeling about it. Less than a month later, I moved out of that apartment, and I'm glad that I did.
This happened to me when I was in college. It was during my second year at my university. I lived in a small house which I shared with my roommate Thomas. The university I went to is rather large, and I think has about 20,000 total students. This took place sometime during the first semester. I remember that one day I went on Instagram and saw that I had a new follower. I clicked on the profile, and it was a girl named Rhonda. She had my school initials in her profile, as well as what I assumed would be her graduating year. She was also followed by 2 people that I knew from college. None of my really close friends, but some guys that I knew who they were and followed them. I realized that Rhonda must have went to my school, and I followed her back. On her profile, she didn't have too many pictures, a few selfies and some pictures of her dog. That was about it. After following her back, I went on with things and didn't think much of it. A few days went by. Then, one day, I noticed that Rhonda liked all of my pictures on Instagram. Now, I had about 40 posts or so, dating all the way back to my early years of high school. She liked every single photo, and I found that nice, but also a little bit random and odd. I thought that maybe she liked me or something. She didn't comment on anything or send me any messages though. Now, several more days went by after this. Then one night, Thomas was studying at a classroom and I was at home by myself. There was then a knock on the door. It was probably about 9 o'clock at night, and I wasn't expecting anybody and had no clue as to who it was. I had been in my room, so I didn't hear the knock very well. I got up and went out into the hallway, and then I heard another knock. But I realized then that the knocking was coming from the back door of the house, not even the front door. Now this was really strange. I walked over to the back door and looked out the window. When I did, I saw a girl standing there. It was Rhonda, but at first I didn't recognize her because I had only seen some selfies of her on Instagram. I don't think that I had ever seen her in person before. As I was standing by the door, she tried opening it up. Then I opened up the back door and said hi to her. I then asked her what she was doing here. She asked me if she could come inside. I had a bad feeling about it. Something about her was sort of creeping me out. Maybe it was the fact that she showed up unannounced to my back door at 9 o'clock at night, and by the way, she had no way of knowing where I lived. I asked her how she knew where my house was. She just asked to come inside again. I really didn't want her to. So instead, I told her that I was really busy with homework and I had to get back to it. She just stood there for a moment looking disappointed. Then she said that she was just going to go and walked off, sort of angrily. I was glad that she was going, but more confused than anything. After she left, I went back inside and went into my room. Then I blocked Rhonda on Instagram. I felt that she had crossed the line by showing up unannounced like that. When Thomas got back home, I asked him if he knew Rhonda at all. He said no. I showed him her picture, and he still didn't recognize her. I told him what happened, and he was just as confused as I was. I was hoping that maybe he had known Rhonda, and she asked him for the address or something. But the fact that he didn't made it that much more creepy and weird. The very next night, I was pulling a late-night session of homework. I had some stuff due at 11:59 p.m. I was trying to get it done at the last moment. It was probably like 11:30, and I was almost done, when I heard Thomas call me from the living room. He was in there watching TV, and I asked him what he wanted. Then he told me that there was a girl standing at the front door. I knew who it was. I got up and walked out into the living room. I looked out the front door to see Rhonda just standing there, but she didn't knock on the door or anything. She appeared to look over and notice me. Then she turned and ran off. It was the creepiest thing ever. I went back and finished my homework and then joined Thomas watching TV in the living room. We kept glancing out the windows to see if she would come back, but luckily she didn't. After that, I never saw her again. I remember I asked Thomas to look her up on Instagram months later in the school year. She had a few more pictures then and appeared to still attend our university. I still don't know what she was doing. It was really creepy behavior though. Several months ago, I sold my PlayStation 5 on eBay. My friend was getting rid of his PS5 for an Xbox, so he sold it to me for a really good price. His PlayStation 5 was a little bit nicer than the version that I had, so I decided to sell mine. I listed it for a good price on eBay as a buy it now rather than an auction. Somebody bought it after just 2 days, and the very next day, I packaged it up really good and shipped it. I sent it to the address that was given from the eBay account that bought it from me. Now, 3 days after I shipped the PlayStation, and 4 days after it was sold, I got a message on eBay from the buyer. He told me that he recently moved and forgot to put his new address on his eBay account. Then he asked me that I ship it to his new address instead. I responded and told him that I already shipped the PlayStation several days ago and that it was too late. The guy freaked out, saying that I should give him a refund because he wasn't going to get it. I told him that he should have realized that, either before he bought it or within the first day. What was I supposed to do? Sit around waiting for his blessing for me to ship it? I mean, normally, people want things shipped as fast as possible after they buy it. He said that he was going to report me to eBay, but that didn't really scare me because I knew I had done nothing wrong. I told the guy that the package will have his name on it, so he should either go to his old address and pick it up, or contact whoever now lives there and ask them to send it to him. In my mind, that was a very logical solution. Obviously, if it was at the wrong address, there was a chance that somebody would steal it, but I mailed it in a box where it wasn't obvious that it was a PS5. The guy did not seem to think my ideas were good. He just told me that he needed a refund, and he kept threatening me, saying that he would have my eBay account banned. I told him that I wasn't going to refund him. Over the next few days, the guy kept harassing me, sending me messages. He kept saying that I had to give him a refund. He really wanted the money, but I wasn't going to give it to him. I just ignored him. So about a week later, I was looking at some of the messages that he sent me, and I decided to look him up, just for the heck of it. His username seemed to be his actual name. It was a first name, an underscore, and then a last name and a bunch of numbers. The last name was somewhat unique sounding, so I thought that I might be able to find him. I wanted to know what this guy looked like that was harassing me so much. I went onto Facebook and entered his name. Just one result came up, and it was a younger looking man. His page was public, so I could see everything that he posted and stuff, and he was quite active. I scrolled down just a little bit and saw a post that nearly blew my mind. He had posted a picture of a PlayStation 5 with the caption, "Just got this bad boy in the mail. Hit me up if you want to play some COD." The PlayStation looked just like the one that I had sold, and it was dated just 3 days after I had mailed the PlayStation, and the very same day that the guy told me that he had the wrong address. This guy was totally trying to scam me. It was a pretty bad attempt too, to be honest. I screenshotted the post and then sent it to him on eBay. The guy claimed that it wasn't him. Then he backtracked and said that it was his friend's PS5, not his. Then he backtracked again and called me a curse word. After that, I never heard from him again.
This happened just last year. I'm a pretty average guy for the most part. I work a job and I have my own little apartment near the city. One day I was added by a seemingly random girl on Snapchat. This is not something that happens very often. My first thought was actually that it was a bot account probably. Still, I was curious, so I decided to add the account back anyways. Well, within probably 20 minutes of adding it back, the account sent me a snap. It was a woman named Avery, and when I opened the snap, I saw a selfie from a good-looking blonde woman who appeared to be around my age. She said hi. I responded sending one back of myself and saying hi. She then typed in the chat instead of sending back another picture. Avery told me that she didn't know if I knew her or not, but she went to my gym and occasionally saw me there. I would work out every day at usually around the same time, which was right after I got off of work. There were lots of regulars that I would see at the gym, as well as other people who I did not know. A lot of people went there and it was a pretty large gym. However, I never really talked to anybody there before and wasn't friends with anyone. I thought about if I had seen her before, and I didn't necessarily remember her exactly, but I thought maybe she looked kind of familiar. She also told me that she wanted to talk to me at the gym, but didn't want to bother me. We got to talking, and it seemed like she liked me. She was very nice, and we had a few things in common. I tried to look her up on Instagram, but I couldn't find any results. There were a few accounts that possibly could have been her, but I didn't know her last name. I couldn't really find anything. After talking for 2 days on Snapchat, Avery asked me if I wanted to meet up sometime. I agreed and said yes. Avery said that she worked at a local bar which was downtown in our local city. She said that I should come and meet her after work that night, and said there was a park right across the street from the bar and we could go there. I agreed, and she said that she got off at 9 p.m. I didn't really think at the time that it was strange to hang out in a park at nighttime. Looking back, it was kind of weird, but I drove to the park and got there. When I did, I went into the parking lot and saw that there was just one other car. I didn't know if this was Avery or not because I was a couple of minutes early. I texted her, but did not immediately hear back, so then I just waited. But after 10 minutes, I was wondering what she was doing. Then she finally texted me back, saying that she was in the park and I should join her. It just seemed sketchy. I told her I was in my car, and I never saw her driving there, and now she was just in the park? The only thing that would make sense is if the other car belonged to her. I had a bad feeling though. For a moment, I didn't know what to do, and I thought about just leaving, but I decided to stay. However, about a minute later, I saw somebody get out of the other car that was there. It was a man wearing a hooded jacket. He began walking over in my direction. I did not know what he wanted or what was going on. So the guy walked all the way over to me, and when he was approaching my window, I just took off. I realized then that I had likely been catfished. After leaving, I blocked the account. I was frustrated by the whole thing, but at least I didn't get robbed or anything, or who knows what would have happened. Looking back, it was strange how she didn't give me any real clear information. I could not find a Facebook or Instagram for her, and she only sent me one picture of herself. It honestly seemed real, and I don't know how that was done, but I know for sure that I've been catfished. Hopefully nothing like this happens again. This happened 2 years ago now. I'm a female and live alone in an apartment building. Like many people, I have an Instagram page that I post on pretty regularly. I would say I post on average at least once a month. I enjoy posting pictures on Instagram.
but I know that occasionally you have to deal with a bot or a creepy person. For the most part, I hadn't had any bad experiences until this happened. One day I opened the Instagram app and saw that I had a direct message. It was from one of my followers, a guy named Tim. I didn't know him and I didn't follow him either. I'm not sure how long he had been following me for, but he sent me a message asking if I could come and hang out with him. I found this to be kind of weird and did not respond. I mean, he didn't even have a conversation with me and I didn't know him. He couldn't possibly expect me to just say yes. And based on his profile picture, I wasn't interested in him. I figured that he wouldn't message me again after that. But the next day, he sent me another message. He once more asked me to hang out with him and said that he could pick me up. This time I responded and said, "No thanks, I appreciate the offer though." Now he had to understand that I wasn't interested. Tim then tried to convince me, but I ignored him. I didn't really know why he was sending me these messages seemingly out of nowhere. The next day, I didn't get any more messages from him. I figured that he would stop communicating with me at that point. The following night, I went grocery shopping after work. I would go shopping occasionally here and there whenever I needed to. I didn't have a particular routine or anything. I was inside of the store shopping for about 20 minutes. The time was probably about 8 p.m. or so. After I was done shopping, I headed out to my car in the parking lot. By now, it was mostly quiet, but there were a few people here and there. I got all the way to my vehicle, only to see that there was a car parked next to me. I started to take my groceries out of the cart and put them in my car. That's when the door opened to the car next to me and a guy got out. I did not recognize him. He just seemed like another guy going shopping, but he didn't walk to the store and instead headed straight for me. At first, I was confused, but he then said my name and asked me why I thought I could ignore him. I realized that it was Tim from Instagram, and I did recognize him from his picture at that point. I was too confused to say anything though. He said that he was here now, and we were together, so we may as well hang out. I finally spoke and asked him what he was doing and how he knew I would be here. He claimed that it was a coincidence. I finished putting my groceries in my car and said that I had to get home. I closed my trunk and then tried to walk around him to my driver's door, but he stopped me by grabbing my arm. He told me to come on and go with him. I asked him to let me go and said that he was hurting my arm, but he started to pull me away towards his car. He was a lot stronger than I was, and we started moving towards his vehicle. Then I started yelling as loud as I could. I was yelling help and telling him to let me go. There were luckily a few people that were walking to their cars in the parking lot a ways away. They took notice of what was going on though, and when Tim saw this, he let me go and told me to shut up. I instantly ran around my car for the driver's door and got inside. Tim followed me, but I locked the door before he could get in. I didn't waste any time, and I drove out of there. Tim had to run back to his car, and I left the parking lot extremely fast. By the time he started his car, I had already left. I went around another nearby store that was out of his sight. Then I took some random residential roads until I was sure he wasn't following me. After that, I drove home. I was so focused on not letting him follow me that I forgot to call the police for a while, but eventually I did. I told him everything that happened, but when I got to my Instagram page, his account was gone. I think he deleted it. Still, after that night, I never saw Tim or heard from him again. I'm a female, and this is something that happened a while back when I was in high school. It was almost 10 years ago, and this was pretty early on into the school year. So randomly one day, I saw that I got added by somebody new on Snapchat. I looked and it was a guy named Michael something, but I didn't recognize his last name at all. So I did not add him back and I deleted it. Just a few days later, I got added on Snapchat by him again, and once more I deleted him. However, probably just a few days after the second time that I deleted the guy, I realized that he was actually in one of my classes and went to my school. I had never talked to him before, and he sat in the back middle of one of my classes while I sat towards the front and one side. So I would never really notice him much, but I did recognize him. He was a new student in the school, and prior to that class, I had never seen him before. Well, he added me again for a third time. This time, I decided to add him back, just because I knew that he went to my school now and that he was new. I still did not know anything about him other than that. I was surprised though that he kept adding me, even after I would not add him back. Well, finally adding him was something that I would quickly regret. I think it was the very next day, early on in the school day, and he sent me a picture of himself. It was just a basic selfie pretty much, with no words. I responded sending one back, but he then sent me like 5 random pictures. We were both in different classes at the time. Some he took of other students, and others were just of the floor and whatever. I opened them up and did not reply because it seemed kind of weird. Later on in the day, we had the class that we were in together. This teacher did not like it when students would be on their phone during class, so I did not go on my phone at all during the class until the very end when we were done and all waiting for the bell to ring. When I did, I saw that there were tons of notifications on Snapchat from this Michael guy. I looked, and he literally sent me at least 20 pictures. I opened them all, quickly going from one to the next. They were all pictures of me that he took from where he was sitting. I found this pretty creepy. After opening them all and not responding, I decided to confront him in person. The bell rang at that point, but I caught up to him outside of the classroom in the hallway. I asked him why he had taken so many pictures of me in class. He just stood there not saying anything. I told him I thought it was really weird, and I was going to tell him not to do it again, but before I could, he just turned and ran away. It was very strange. Michael was now seeming like sort of a creep to me, and I decided to delete him on Snapchat, so I did. A few days went by, and I saw him in class, but didn't talk to him or anything. Then he added me on Snapchat again for a 4th time. This time, I blocked him. I really wanted nothing to do with the guy. Well, that very same day, I left school when it was over. I drove to and from school and had a car during this time. I remember that I left school, and when I was on my way home, I noticed that Michael was driving behind me. I had never noticed this before and was immediately suspicious. When I made it about halfway home, he was still behind me. I didn't think that he lived near me, and I figured that based on his previous behavior, he was possibly following me. When I had made it almost all the way home, he was still there, and after making it less than a mile from my house, I did not want to go any further, so I pulled over to the side of the street. Michael slowed down in his car but did not pull over. He ultimately drove past me and kept going. Then I went home. I didn't really know what to do about this whole deal. Over the next few days, I noticed Michael in class and I completely ignored him. Luckily, he didn't try talking to me or anything. He also did not add me again on Snapchat or try following me home. And probably a week or 2 after this, I stopped seeing him in class. Eventually, I asked around, and I found out that he apparently changed schools or something. I'm glad that he did. That whole situation is something that I would like to forget. For some background to the story, I'm a female and was 17 at the time. I was a senior in high school and lived with my parents. I have Snapchat and have had it since middle school actually. It was a very common way for me to talk to friends in high school. Occasionally, I would get added by random people who I didn't know. I would say it happened about every week or 2. However, I never added anybody back unless I knew exactly who they were. I added some random people back when I was much younger, and some of them were kind of weird, so I stopped doing that. Well, I remember one day, I got added by some random guy on Snapchat. I did not add him back and deleted it. So I think it was the next day or else a couple days later, I got added by one of my friends from school. It was not one of my best friends, but somebody who I knew decently. I already was friends with her on Snapchat, so when I saw it, I figured that she made a new account. In high school, it was not that uncommon for people to make new accounts for various reasons. I didn't think too much of it, and I added her back. That afternoon, after I arrived home from school, I was just in my bedroom at my desk, and that same friend messaged me on Snapchat. She asked me what I was doing, and I said that I was just at home doing homework. She then told me that she was going to come over. I said okay, but it seemed a little bit odd. She had maybe come over like once or twice, but it had been a really long time. I also hadn't really hung out with her in a while. During this time, My parents were still gone at work, and I was at home by myself. About 15 minutes later, there was a knock at the front door. I assumed it to be my friend, and I was still a little bit confused that she was coming over at all. But she also did not text me on Snapchat to say that she was there or anything. So I left my bedroom, and I walked out into the living room. I soon saw that there was a random man standing on the front step. I had no idea who he was or what he was doing at my house. I decided not to answer the door. Luckily, he did not see me when I looked out of the window. I then went back to my bedroom. When I did, I saw that my friend had now messaged me on Snapchat. She told me that she was outside and asked to be let in. Now I knew what was going on. This was not my friend at all, but this man must have been pretending to be her. I instantly blocked the account. I then went back out into the living room and saw that the man was still standing there. I wasn't sure what I was going to do about it, but that's when I noticed my dad's car going down the street. He was coming back home from work. As soon as he started to pull into the driveway, the man at the front step just took off running. He left the front yard, going back out into the street. My dad came inside and mentioned how he saw a guy running from our yard. I told him what happened, and he called the cops. We talked to them when they came out, and they said that they would look into it. That man must have known my friend's name if he pretended to be her. How he even knew who I was, I do not know. My best guess is that he saw me on Facebook or Instagram or something, or maybe even in person. He must have looked at my friends list on probably Facebook to get her name and then impersonate her on Snapchat. It was crazy, but luckily I never heard from him or saw him again. I am a 26-year-old female. Earlier this year, I met up with one of my best friends, Courtney. It was a Friday night and we went to a local village. Next to the center of town, there were some restaurants, and there was also a park with live music being played. We had made reservations to the restaurant, but got there about an hour early to walk around and enjoy the night. It was very nice weather that evening, and lots of other people were out. Courtney and I walked over to the concert, and there was a bit of a crowd standing nearby. We hung out there for a while until it was time for our dinner reservations. While we were over there, I took a picture of Courtney and I and posted it to my Snapchat story. We later went to a nearby restaurant and then walked around the plaza. After we left, we each went home. Now, after arriving back to my apartment, I saw that I had a few Snapchat notifications. One of them in particular caught my eye. A guy who I did not know responded to my story. He responded to the picture of Courtney and I and said, "I was behind you guys." I did not have any clue as to who this guy was, and I did not even remember becoming friends with him on Snapchat. I realized that he must have recognized us though, and also been at the concert thing. I responded with something like, "Oh, haha, that's funny." He then said something like, "Yes, I was watching you the whole time." I was a little bit creeped out by this response, but hoped and assumed that he was just joking. I did not respond. However, the man then sent another message a very short time later. I looked, and he asked where I was going next weekend and said that he would watch us then too. I asked the man who he even was. I was wondering why and when I became friends with him on Snapchat. The man did not respond, but left me on read. After that, I blocked him. I then started talking to Courtney and telling her of the situation. Courtney said that the guy had also sent her some Snapchats that same night. She also mentioned how he was being creepy, and she too did not know who he was. After that, she blocked him as well. I remember that for a few days, and the next time I saw Courtney, I was a little bit paranoid. Luckily, nothing strange has happened since, except I never saw what the guy looked like, and I still don't know. I'm not sure if he was actually at the concert thing and watching us, or if he was just saying that on Snapchat. I honestly don't know why. I'm just hoping that I never encounter him again. This happened last year and still creeps me out when I think of it. So I was at home one night by myself. I was just in my bedroom scrolling through my phone. All of a sudden, I saw this Snapchat notification from a name that I did not recognize. I was curious, so I went to Snapchat and opened the snap to see. It was a selfie of what appeared to be a man. However, this photo was taken extremely close to his face, and he also appeared to be in a very dark room. I could barely see his face at all, and didn't recognize it to be anybody that I knew. The picture honestly looked very creepy. There was no words with the picture, and that was it. I guess at some point, I must have become friends with this guy. I didn't know when though. I had Snapchat for probably 10 years. I did not send a picture back, but instead typed a message for the guy, asking who he was. Then he sent another photo. When I opened it, I saw that it was much like the one before. It was honestly so creepy. I wish I would have screenshotted it, but I didn't. I thought that maybe the person sent a picture like this by mistake, but after the second one, I realized that it was not. I asked again who it was. The person's response, though, really shocked me. He simply said, "I'm coming over now." I thought that he had to be joking, but I also realized then that I had my location on Snapchat. I quickly went into the settings and turned my location off. If this guy was serious, I was hoping that he would not know where I was. Then I blocked the mysterious guy. I thought that was it. I returned to what I was doing, but I couldn't help but feel a little bit creeped out by the whole thing. Well, roughly 30 minutes later, there was a knock at the front door. I had a terrible feeling instantly. I think by now it was like 10-something at night. Not a normal time for somebody to come to the door. I carefully left my bedroom and went down the hallway. Eventually, I got to a window that I could look out and see who was there. When I did, I saw a man wearing a ski mask standing there. I couldn't believe it. The guy must have got my location before I had turned it off. I watched him knock on the door again. Then he started to look around. When he did, I quickly moved back and away from the window. I heard the guy walk off the step, but did not know where he was going to. The next thing I knew, I heard him right outside one of the main windows. I ran back into my bedroom and then called the police. I locked my bedroom door and covered my window. Then I just waited. I did not hear anything during this time. I wasn't sure what was going on, if he was trying to break in or maybe if he left. About 10 minutes later is when the cops arrived. They came to the front door and I told them about what happened. They offered to look around, and I almost said that they didn't have to, but I ended up saying sure. Then they looked around my backyard, and surprisingly found the man hiding in some bushes. When they located him, they asked him to come out. He ignored them and then tried to run. However, the police caught up with him before he left the yard. It was the same guy who had been Snapchatting me. I'm not sure what his plans were. I'm just glad that he was caught.